So today, me and Karen are going to be dealing with the subject matter escaping patterns of negativity, because it's very easy to have that little voice that goes round and round your head, giving reasons why you can't achieve something, why you aren't good enough, why someone else can achieve it, but you'll never achieve it. And what we're trying to do with Joiner Vision is really show people that if you want to achieve it, you can. But dealing with that negative voice is something that, yeah, you are better at than myself, I would say, because this is not my area of expertise. So how do we escape these patterns of negativity, Karen?
Well, it's a massive subject, isn't it? And we are absolutely surrounded by people who are really, really struggling with these negative patterns. And it's a really big subject. So, I mean, we'll probably just sort of graze the surface of it today. But, what I'd really like to do is just give people some pointers where to start. So
Mhm.
basically, I think the biggest thing in dealing with this kind of escaping from negativity is I think we need to have the realization that everything is energy, everything is frequency. Frequency is the big ticket item when it comes to this. And the other one, I believe, is intention. So, just briefly to cover the frequency part of it, we are energy, everything is energy, everything around us is energy, everything we can touch, hear, see, taste, it's all energy. And we perceive this energy through our senses. And our senses are tuned, if you like, to a specific frequency. We can pick up things that are the right frequency for us to be able to touch or to be able to hear. But like with dogs, dogs can hear frequencies that are way outside of the range of a human. So, because we can't see
Mm.
things or hear them or touch them, it doesn't mean that things aren't there. So, that's the first important thing. Everything is energy and everything has a frequency. And when I say a frequency, I mean in really, really, really simple terms, it's how our atoms vibrate. And the higher our frequency, that's associated with feeling really good. Whereas low frequency energies are, it's your depression, it's your sadness, it's your grief, it's anger, are the kind of emotions that really just aren't so comfortable. So the other thing to mention, I think, here is intention. And intention is really important because intention is the way that we can get ourselves out of these negative cycles. We need to start by having the intention to get out of it, to actually just take the space and to clear our heads and just say, I recognize what's happening here. I need to elevate myself out of this. Because intention is a really, really powerful thing. Intention is kind of like the key. Frequency is the mechanism, but the key to unlocking that is to have a really clear intention.
Mm.
Does that make sense so far?
It does, yes. I
So,
like that.
our sort of classic, kind of, we're surrounded by negative frequencies. We're surrounded by news, And what
Mm.
happens is, if we don't have a clear intention and control of our own frequency, we expose ourselves to this negativity, and it's just like it can just suck us in because we're kind of all over the
Mm.
place. So, what will really, really help us is to have control of our own frequency and to recognize when frequencies from outside are trying to influence us, are trying to pull us off course, are trying to drag us down, if you like. And it's really simple, but it isn't easy to do, if that makes any sense. That actually sounds really annoying. It's simple, but it isn't
Yeah.
easy. That's the reality of it. But by starting with a clear intention, I absolutely believe we can start to get control back again.
Hmm.
So,
Because I have heard that negative thinking is very easy for our brains to wire. Once you've started thinking negatively, maybe a news article you overhear, and then it's quite easy for, I don't know if this is right, for the sort of wires in our brain to all seize on that negative and to lock in place, and then it's really hard for it to change to a positive way. So it's
well,
quite
it
easy to
is
spiral once you've thought. Mhm.
because, in a way, it's like that's what we've become used to. So, in a way, it kind of feels comfortable for us. It might not be a comfortable frequency, but actually, it's kind of what we're used to. So, the
Yeah.
frequency that we put out is what we will attract back in. So, as long as we continue in a kind of, a kind of low vibration, low frequency kind of mindset, if you like, that's what we'll attract in, and we'll get used to it and we get comfortable with it. And we all do this. And one of the amazing things about humans is our nervous system has the ability to learn. This is humans learn really, really well. It takes us 3 days to lay down, quite significant new neuronal pathways. We are learning machines. But also, the
Wow.
downside of this is that we learn to be a certain way, and we model what's around us, and we entrain to the frequencies around us. And we just, it can be really difficult to pull ourselves out of that. But if we can increase our frequency, then we will, quite naturally, we will start to attract higher frequency experiences, higher frequency people, higher frequency events, higher frequency thoughts. It's just taking that first step and getting ourselves onto that path of recognizing what's happening. And just those, it's like it's
Mhm.
those, just taking those first few steps to get ourselves out of it.
Mm. Yes. Yeah, and they often, well, you hear that all the time, isn't it? That you get back what you put out. Um, I think I know so many people who've been in very difficult relationships. And when I look back on my past, I think actually I um, I wasn't in a positive space when I attracted,
Mm.
a difficult relationship. And it was only, I think sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to actually think, no, I've got to get out of this. Um, and then you realize how powerful you are, that if you actually start stepping into your own power, there is a way out. But that's the challenge, isn't it? As you just said.
Absolutely. And we have been taught, we have absolutely been programmed, and we have been taught that we are small, powerless, pawns in a great game, and that we need other people, and organizations, to tell us what to do, because, we can't decide for ourselves. you know
Mm.
we're led to believe that, these organizations in authority are there to protect us, so we assume that they are, but they don't always work in our favor. And, really, really, the absolute key to this is, I really believe it's for us to get back in touch with our own power. Because,
Mm.
if we need to make a decision for us, there is only one person who can absolutely every time has the capability to make the right decision, and that is us. No one else can do it for us. We've been taught that we're small and we're powerless and we're helpless, and we need all these other people to tell us what to do, and it quite simply isn't true, because every one of us has come into this existence with our own built in guidance, and
Mhm.
we've just lost touch with it. And we can
Yeah.
find that again. We can get ourselves back in touch with ourselves. And, that's it's not terribly difficult, but it is difficult, because taking that first step and doing something which is outside of the norm, which is outside of our normal frequency, is really hard. But as you said,
And I
step by
think,
step, we
yeah, I
absolutely
think we've
can.
also forgotten how to, like, there's from a very, very, very young age, we give our power to other people. So then when you have to follow your gut, you don't trust your gut because you haven't had to use it before. And I met a lovely lady on Joynavision, and she sort of went into a good meditative space, and a kind of she felt this experience that or this voice that said just trust yourself. And she's a therapist for the NHS, and she says that's what I tell my patients now: trust yourself. And I think that's so simple. If you start listening to that gut, if you get a churning sensation when you're around someone, or you come away feeling uplifted, then follow that gut, and it's pretty much foolproof.
It is.
It's sometimes you just have a hunch, and you think, I'd get a funny feeling, and most of us go, oh, it'll be fine. Well, that's what I always do. They'll be fine, and then you think, oh, I wish I'd listened. There was a little voice. um,
But
so just
it's
trusting
like
ourselves.
intuition and internal guidance it's like a muscle. It's like, if you lie in bed for 3 months and you get up, you're not going to be able to do very much because all your muscles have sort of atrophied and kind of just stopped working. And it's the same with our guidance system. You can build it up. You can actually, the more you listen to it, it's kind of like the stronger it gets. It really is exactly like building up a muscle. It's another skill set, and it's a skill set which is part of us, is part of our divine makeup. This is how humans are supposed to function. Humans are supposed to
Yeah,
be creatures of intuition, connected to their own heart center, if you like, because the heart really is the sort of the center of emotion in the body. I mean, the heart is
it
fascinating.
is.
It pumps blood, but it also has its own neurons. It has its own nervous system. It gives out electromagnetic radiation really powerfully, and it's there for a reason. This up here
Mhm.
does the thinking, but here is where the intuition is. And if we can teach ourselves to tune in to our own intuition, to our own heart, then that's kind of the first step. But to be able to do that, it's really difficult for most of us to actually be quiet enough because we have all this stuff going on. We've got all this electromagnetic radiation flying around, and we've got, social media, and we've got TV, and radio and news and music and everything. And it's all this stuff kind of flying around. And, with all that going on, it's going to be really difficult to connect. And the value of just taking a few minutes every day and just shutting all of that out and just being quiet is is fantastic training, because
Yeah,
that's going to feel
yeah.
really weird in the beginning. I
Mhm,
can I can remember sitting there thinking, oh my god, okay, what now? But it's training. It's getting used to
mhm,
it. It's
mhm.
allowing yourself to let go of all that crazy stuff, and actually it is just being. Because
Mhm.
once we can recognize what's us, then we can kind of guide ourselves through the world. But if we don't know, if we have no kind of, it's like a foundation. If we don't have that foundation, it's very, very difficult to navigate our way through the
Mm.
world.
It is, and I think we put a lot of emphasis on defining ourselves. So all this labeling is very. I've almost look at it as you think, oh, that's quite clever to you're a successful business person, or you're a doctor, or you're a vet, or you're a policewoman, and you don't actually know who you are. And it was kind of when I think a lot of mums have to go through this, don't they? Because when they leave their job and they have a baby, and suddenly like, well, who am I? I don't know who I am. And then you're defined by your role as a mum. But then you learn a different way of looking at the world. And I remember thinking, I don't, nothing feels stable anymore. And I just had to start thinking, well, the only thing I can count on is that my one foot is going in front of the other. And that's all I've just got to, and that's real and that's what's happening. But everything else, I thought, I don't trust the government anymore. I don't trust the way the world is. And so got to start getting to know who I am and start changing the way I interact with the world. And then you realize that's actually one of the most empowering things you do. You just because there's the news is on, it doesn't mean you have to listen. Just because there was a 3 p.m. alert yesterday, it doesn't mean you had to participate. um, and just because yeah, crap stuff has happened in your life, it doesn't mean that that's the path you're on for the future. Everything is changeable, and that's the power in ourselves, isn't it? It's makes you think how awesome humans are.
I mean, that's it. We are absolutely incredibly powerful beings. We actually have the ability to, if you like, create our own external circumstances through what we put out into the world. But, if we get trapped in this kind of negativity and this sort of low vibe stuff, then we can't actually, all we can put out is more of the same. And, as you
Mm.
said earlier, like attracts like. And, we will just keep, we'll just keep getting what we keep getting what we pump out. It's
Mm.
interesting to kind of ask ourselves the question. It's like, am I am I steering? Do you know what I mean? It's almost like you're on a boat
Mm.
and you're getting buffeted around by the waves. And have you actually taken your hand off the tiller? Are you actually there? Are you actually really conscious at all? Or are you just responding to what's happening around you? And there's a real
Mm.
difference. There's a real, real difference between living and going through our lives consciously and going just responding from one thing to the other, and the next situation. I always do that, so I do that this time. It really is,
Mm.
and that's why this sort of quiet and stepping back into ourselves and grounding ourselves and connecting with our heart, because at that point we can actually start to consciously decide what we're going to do and who we want to be, more importantly, because you're absolutely right, we label people, and with all these fantastic titles, and then certainly my experience is just suddenly realizing that just like none of that actually matters. It's just a thing
Mm.
that I decided to do. And in my in my case, I did a lot of things, and I was like, okay, well, now I'm this and now I'm that, and I still don't really feel like I'm any better off. What am I missing here? And fortunately for me, I did actually this, understanding all of this is actually what was missing.
Mm-hmm.
It's having that absolute, it's like control over myself, feeling like I'm actually living as, a kind of autonomous being. I'm not just here, for other people's convenience, and because someone else has decided that, I should do this job or I should do that job or do the other. It's like there is
Mm,
value in actually just doing nothing. But
yes, but we're not taught that.
we're not supposed to do that, because if someone says, so what have you done today, and "Oh, actually I just sat there and did absolutely nothing and contemplated the universe and really connected with my heart center," and they're like, many
Mm.
people would just think that
You
that
what?
is just utterly bonkers.
Mm.
But
I know. And I think it's a good lesson to teach our children, isn't it? Because the children, their gut is very, that they know it. They know it. They're so in tune with it. I remember dropping my daughter off at preschool. She was crying, and she was trying to tell me something, but I was like, the teacher's lovely. She's fine, and she was fine. But the next day she cried as well, and the next day she learned not to cry. And
mm,
she was okay, she was okay. But you think a child is knows intuitively what is right for them and what is wrong. And all we have to do is be guided by that child, and they'll have an incredible gut instinct that
mm,
they know is almost, flawless. But instead, we go, shush, it'll be fine. Don't worry, they're nice people or whatever, you'll be fine. So then they make bad decisions as teenagers. They probably fall into jobs that they don't actually love. They fall have relationships with people that don't, necessarily have their best interest. And yeah, um,
and we
yes. But if we
teach
teach
them,
our young people to,
yeah, we teach them that other
mm,
people know best. That mummy
yes,
knows best. We've all done it. Teacher knows best. Teacher knows
mhm,
what's best for you. Doctor knows what's best for you. And,
mm,
you know, mummy or teacher or doctor, they might be right, but we don't give the child the chance to feel that out and decide that for themselves. It's kind of
yeah,
like, oh, off you go. Yeah. And it
yeah,
will never be perfect, because this is an imperfect world. But you know once we decide that this is what we want to do, that actually this really isn't good enough, and we are actually not here to be slaves to other people, and to have a miserable time. We're actually here to have a fantastic time. And once we decide that, "Do you know what, I'm just really not going to buy into this anymore," and we can kind
yeah,
of start to do this kind of reconnection with ourselves thing, you know
mm,
just allow ourselves to believe that we actually have all the answers, and we might have to practice a bit and do a bit of work to kind of bring those skills back, but they are absolutely in there. There is no human walking this planet who does not have built-in guidance that will steer
yeah.
them through any situation they find themselves in. It's just being able to connect with it, bring it out,
Beautiful.
and hear it.
Yeah. Well, that was a perfect way to end this. Thank you so much for your time and your positive words. Yes, I love listening to you. Very
Thank you
beautiful.
so much. It's an absolute pleasure.
And we will chat again soon, because this is always unearthing different habits that we've got inside ourselves. But so hopefully I'll connect with you in a couple of weeks' time, and we'll deal with the
Absolutely.
next issue.
Fantastic.
All
Look
right.
forward to next time.
Thanks. Yes. Lovely to see you. Thanks again.
Bye.
Bye.